there are two key terms that are important to understanding uh, women's history, women's studies, specifically because these two terms were developed by and come out of that field of study. They also apply crucially to our understanding of military history and are central to understanding today's presentation. The first of these terms is gender, often confused with sex. And sex historically has been thought of as being binary, male and female. In recent years, we've begun to think about other forms of sex, and certainly other forms of gender. Now, gender, as we're going to use it, has to do with socially constructed roles for men and women. That is to say, the ways in which men and women are expected to behave. And then secondly, the power relationships between the two. The other important definition is patriarchy. And this is a system of social structures and practices in which men govern, oppress, and exploit women. And patriarchy helps to explain why women are so often absent from, well, military history, because war historically has been a very gendered activity. It's been very much oriented toward men. Now, formal power in all terms has always been oriented toward men, at least since the Bronze Age, as Professor Lerner talks about. But in terms of military history, generals historically have always been men. Soldiers historically have always been thought to be men, and being a soldier as a role was considered to be appropriate for men. And then even well into the 20th century, there was this idea that women were too soft to be effective in war. There was a tremendous contest about the extent to which women could be involved in the military, the kinds of positions that they could occupy, the kinds of roles that they could play. These were expressions of gender norms, but they were enforced by a patriarchal system in which the key decision making always rested in the hands of men. And by the way, a component of the feminist study of patriarchy was the concept of male privilege, a system of advantages or rights that are available to men solely on the basis of their sex. And some of these are formal advantages, but some of them are almost invisible because they're so taken for granted. For example, the idea that on campus at night, males can walk the campus in the expectation that they'll be relatively safe. Women, when they walk the campus at night, have to worry about being attacked. And so feeling safe on campus at night is an unearned privilege, an unearned advantage that men enjoy. And it's not so much that that males on campus are enforcing this or whatever. It's an unearned advantage. They didn't ask for it; they've got it. And what they can do is push back against it and create a campus that's safer for women at night. But it's an unearned advantage that men have. In 1988, a women's study specialist named Peggy McIntosh took this idea of male privilege and adapted it to race. And she thought about white privilege. She herself was white. And she was just thinking, well, males have these unearned privileges. What about whites having unearned privileges? And then she wrote out a list of over 40 advantages that she felt that she enjoyed as a white person in American society. They weren't earned advantages, but they were there. And then she wrote a famous essay about white privilege. And that's where the term that has sort of escaped academia and has gotten into popular discourse and has been really, misunderstood, because privilege in everyday life means, leading a sort of a pampered existence, sitting on your, on your green swards of grass, butlers and so forth, bringing you martinis and that kind of a thing. And that's not the sense in which privilege is being discussed. But this idea of white privileges tracks back to male privilege, and that tracks back in turn to the study of patriarchy.